Good morning class. Today we are going to discuss about your next topic, that is aquatic plants. What are aquatic plants? Those plants which are found in water or in aquatic habitat such as ponds, lakes, oceans and sea are called aquatic plants. These are of three types, that is fixed plant, floating plants and underwater plant. Now, first of all, what are fixed plants? With the name fixed, you can understand that the plants are literally fixed. But where they are fixed? They are fixed on the bed of the pond. And they have hollow stem. Also, the stem is very light. What about the leaves? The leaves are very large and somewhat submerged in the water. The lower side is submerged in the water. So that's why the stomata are present on the upper side. In earlier lectures, we have discussed that there are stomata present. What are stomata basically? Stomata are tiny holes present on the lower surface of leaf, and they help in breathing the plant. But the lower side of these plants are submerged in water. So that's why the stomata are present on the upper side and they help in breathing the plant. The examples of fixed plant are lotus and lily. So what are the characters of fixed plant? First of all, the stem is light and hollow. The leaves are submerged in water and the stomata are present on the upper surface of the leaves. They are fixed to the pond, for example, lotus and lily. Next one is floating. With the name floating, we can understand that the plants which will float on the surface of water are called floating plants. For example, duckweed and water hyacinth. Now, how these plants float on the surface of water? That means there is some spaces present in between them. These plants are very spongy. They have spongy and swollen parts which have air spaces in between them, which helps the plants to float. So, what are the characters of floating plant? These plants float on the surface of water. They have spongy and swollen part. For example, duckweed and water hyacinth. Next one is underwater plants. Underwater plants. With the name, we can understand that those plants which grow into the water at the bottom of the sea or the pond or lake. These plants are growing into the water. That means the leaves do not have stomata. But how these plants will breathe under the water? These plants have air spaces in between them which helps them to breathe. Also, these plants are very long and very narrow. They are very flexible so that they can be moved with the water current. The main advantages of these underwater plant is that these plants help in cleaning the pond. They keeps the pond clean. For example, tape grass and pondweed are the two examples of the plant which are underwater plant. They have leaves that are very narrow and long. They have air spaces between them instead of the stomata so that they can breathe, and these plants help in cleaning the pond or lakes. So we have discussed fixed plants which are fixed to the bed of the pond. They have hollow stem and the stomata are present on the upper surface of the leaf. For example, lotus and lily. Next is floating plants. Floating plants which floats on the water. For example, duckweed and water hyacinth. They have spongy and swollen parts. That's why they float on the surface of water. Underwater plants which lives into the water, they have leaves which are very narrow and long. Their body is flexible and they do not have stomata. Instead of stomata, they have air spaces in the stem. For example, tape grass and pondweed. Okay, class, this will be all for today. Thank you for listening.